Shalom, family, and thank you so much for joining us for this week's weekly news update. It's always a pleasure and a privilege for me to sit with you on our proverbial back porch with my nice new jacket or fleece that I get to wear and come hang out with you guys on this fall evening as we go over the news headlines from the 10,000-foot view. Remember that, folks. We got to stay at that 10,000-foot view. We can't get too myopic because that's how we get caught up in the cares of this world, the deceitfulness of riches, and the lust of other things. So that 10,000-foot view keeps us safe, right? And that's a very important thing, especially in this hour. And of course, we take that view from a biblical perspective, from a scriptural point of view, and look at things as they're unfolding in accordance with scriptural prophecy. And I want to remind everyone that may be joining us perhaps for the first time, because we do have some new people, as you are all being quite wonderful about sharing the links. So you guys are awesome. And I just want to encourage you to make sure you bookmark this site, remnantwatch.com. It is a labor of love. You will not find a bunch of pop-ups and annoying things on it. Isn't that awesome? And you've got all of the stories that we're covering every week, so you can keep track. You can go back. You can keep us honest, right? You can go back and look at some of those things that we talked about and see if and take a look at those stories and get into that. And maybe you'll find some details we even missed, and we'll have to go back and recover some things. How about that? Wouldn't that be awesome? So I'm really grateful for those of you that are very astute, sharp, very, very awake, and are on top of these things. And the reason why we do these once a week is because of something we like to say around here. You may have heard me say it a few times. I'm going to say it more. We like to be informed without being overwhelmed. And that is a very important thing psychologically, because your adversary, the devil, walks about like a roaring lion, seeking whom he may devour, and he devours your time. This is why Mashiach, that's why the scripture says that we have to redeem the time, for the days are evil. And so this is why we have to be very careful. According to the scripture, we are required to watch, right? So we need to know what to pray about. We need to see what's going on and watch what's happening so we know how to intercede. And that is something we are commanded to do. So we can't completely disconnect. That doesn't work. Some of you, I had to pull you back from, come on now. Come on, get over here. You completely disconnected, bro. We can't have that. That was too far. Some of you are like that. You're like, I don't listen to none of it. I don't care what none of it's going on. And I was kind of drifting in that direction too, because it was just so much, right? And then we kind of struck this balance, which I think has really worked out over these last several years. We've been doing these, and I personally think that is a good pace. So thank you for joining us. And on that note, let's get into the news. And I want to just remind everybody that at the top of these, there's a little banner that lets you know that there's a broadcast, and it goes to the latest weekly news update on YouTube. So that will be helpful for you if you are running in late and want to find the channel. Like, where is it? Where's the broadcast? You can go to remnantwatch.com and hit that button. It's going to take you right here. Okay, it's going to bring you right in. All right, so that's a good thing to know. And on tonight's top story, the Federal Reserve note is falling fast. This is a war that we talked about. It's a fifth dimensional war. It's a multifaceted war we're in, folks. And the economic data dump happened before a long weekend, which they are famous for doing, aren't they, folks? Aren't they famous for doing these things on weekends when they kind of know you're not going to be paying as much attention? Maybe you're going to be watching the football game. Maybe you're going to be watching, the Clemson game I heard about, or whoever, I don't know, something. They are hoping you're distracted, eating too much food or something. And you're not going to notice the dollar falls amid economic data dump before the long weekend. The dollar fell broadly on Wednesday. So this was earlier in the week, in thin pre-holiday trade, digesting a slew of indicators that underscore U.S. economic resilience, while investors assess the risk that President-elect Donald Trump will start a tariff war no one will win. All right, well, I doubt very seriously that's actually going to be the case, but I do see the saber rattling that is causing this concern. And so again, we who are wise, who are chasing after and running after wisdom, right? We're seeing these troubling signs afar off, and according to the scripture, we are commanded to hide ourselves. Now, somebody says, "Well, it's the weakened economy." Well, it's the tough economic situation. Well, that's part of the problem. But I would suggest to you that the Japanese, the Chinese, and all of those holding on to US dollars might have found a different way to repatriate those dollars without going through the Federal Reserve. And as a matter of fact, for those of you who thought Bitcoin and ledger based currencies were going away, look here. The US government is in at 1.92 billion in digital currencies. So for all their talk about, well, we don't know about those things and I don't know if they can be, well, do we trust any of that? And people are getting robbed and who knows what that is. Meanwhile, they've got 1.92 billion of it. So they scared everybody away from it for years, guys, while they were amassing 1.92 billion. I'm just going to leave that there for a minute because I hope you're picking up who aren't your friends. There are some folks out there that are not your friends, okay? They are not your friends, and they're not going to tell you things that are happening all around. And I'm going to bring this up for a reason. You're seeing this in the very top of our discussion because you're seeing the world changing right in front of your face, and most people are not picking it up. Brazil's Bitcoin reserve bill. Did you know about this? Most people don't. Most people did not know that El Salvador moved their economy into cryptocurrency and they're working their way out of IMF debt. Now, Brazil's Bitcoin reserve bill is trying to follow suit, how it could change crypto forever. Brazil's Bitcoin takes a bold step toward Congressman Eros Biondini has proposed a BTC reserve bill to make Bitcoin part of the national treasury. Why are they doing this? So that they can move themselves out of debt. They are recognizing something that you all are figuring out, and that is a debt-based currency is a death trap, and it can never, ever succeed. It will eventually enslave everyone who uses it. And so they're finally figuring out something that many people knew for a long time. Some of you had figured it out just by looking at the back of these things, this whole New World Order nonsense. We all saw through it, but nobody knew how to fix it. And now look at this. Since the election, what have we watched? We've watched the surge in these digital currencies. And some of you are thinking, oh, it's just a bunch of dumb nonsense. No, those dollars they can't figure out how to repatriate? I think they figured out a way. I think they figured out a way to get those dollars into the system, and they're doing it somewhere else. On the day Trump won the U.S. election on November 5th, Bitcoin was trading at $68,000. People forgot all about that, and it was receding from a high of 72 on October 30th, and then Trump won. And because he is Captain Pro Bitcoin and Pro Crypto, that shook the world. You didn't even notice because you were too busy celebrating that he won, right? So the Wicked Witch didn't win, so we didn't know what the implications would be. Well, the implications are the death of the system that you know it. There's no way to save it. They can try. They can talk tough. They can threaten. They can get upset. But at the end of the day, a debt-based currency will collapse. It is debt-based, after all. So it cannot succeed. Eventually, its numerics come back for it, no matter how much you keep reprinting it. And now that you have more honest options and alternatives out there, where ledgers are being kept in the public, where you can't cheat, at least not as easily, then unfortunately, that's going to continue to expose this absolute debacle that is the Federal Reserve. And so Mexico is now reacting to all of this, and you're going to start to see some of that tariff war that they threatened because, in fact, he is going to impose some tariffs, but I don't think it's going to be to oblivion. I think everyone's going to realize he doesn't bluff, so you probably want to come to the table and negotiate. Mexico City, Mexico President Claudia Sheinbaum probably going to get reined in by some other folks, said on Wednesday Mexico would retaliate if U.S. President-elect Donald Trump followed through with his proposed 25% across-the-board tariff, a move her government warned could kill 400,000 U.S. jobs and drive up prices for U.S. customers. Now, I do believe that there is a real threat that there can be some very serious hard words going back and forth across this border. But a lot of this is theatrics, folks. Some of this is pandering to bases, pandering to your political bases and so forth. But don't make any mistake that behind the scenes, these folks are going to sit down, they're going to work it out, and they're not going to destroy what has already been a very difficult, 4-year period that they've all endured. So I'd expect that they're going to figure out this. A lot of this is just blubbery, but I do believe it is contributing to the overall economic environment, and it is certainly bringing in a different level of accountability and a different level of attention, especially to this space. And one of the things that I'm very encouraged to see is that 11 states have decided to sue BlackRock, State Street, and Vanguard. It's about time. It's about time. And this is extremely good news. This says that things that were going on in the dark are now coming to the light. This should cause some serious, serious pause in the halls of I want to build a monopoly and I want to run the world. Alabama, Arkansas, Indiana, Iowa, Kansas, Missouri, Montana, Nebraska, Texas, West Virginia, and Wyoming have decided to put the slap down on on BlackRock, on State Street, and on Vanguard for violating antitrust laws. And so these are Texas Attorney General Ken Paxton was leading 10 other GOP state attorney generals in this lawsuit. And I got to tell you something, I'm really liking a lot of what I'm seeing coming out of Texas, because they're really starting to understand that it was our sovereignty that was attacked. It wasn't just some codes and things. They are literally coming for our sovereignty, and it is about time that the citizens, the people of Earth, start pushing back. You are not a second-class a being, if you will. There isn't another tier above you of elite. That's a misnomer. You're the elite. You're the people who hear the word of Yahuwah Sebaot and do it. Okay, so and I think that is actually starting to hit people. And how do I know? How do you know that, people? Peter, how do you know people are starting to seek first the kingdom? Maybe they're starting to wake up. He did say they all would wake up. Even the foolish versions would wake up. Okay, he said even the foolish versions would wake up, and sales of Bibles are booming, fueled by first-time buyers and new versions. Publishers attribute a 22% jump in Bibles, which of course is already the number one book sold on earth. Sales this year, rising anxiety and search for hope, and highly focused marketing and designs. Well, that may be true. There may be some highly focused marketing and designs, but I do believe the real reason is because people are starting to find that they are not on the right path. And they're starting to ask really hard questions, because, of course, when someone on social media or somewhere else says, hey, do you know you were deceived? And they want to prove them wrong and they want to debunk it, they go digging, they go buying. And I believe this is a good thing. So I'm very happy to see that there are, good signs on the way. But I do believe that, and we're going to get into this a little more in this report, I do believe that we're starting to see maybe it's the end of an economic war, because we certainly have been through 4 years of not so much fun, but it is culminating and it is not over yet. And this is going to be quite a situation before it's over. Because again, remember, we've talked about this, all of those foreign US dollars that are being repatriated, that are coming back. And it is difficult to get them into the United States. There's two separate currency systems. Most people didn't know that. There's an outside the United States currency system and an internal currency system, and they don't like to let them come back and forth. So those who are holding them outside that say, I don't want to hold these anymore, we're running out of ways to deal with it until they figured out that maybe we should make them digital. And kaboom, we got ourselves a run. We got ourselves a drain. Okay. And so that is why this is such a very, very important moment. And it's why we need to be very careful in this hour, because of what is happening. And it is not you guys are all in the crosshairs of a very big fight between seriously big powers. And you say, oh, well, but before we get to that, I just want you to know that Trump is already did this Reagan-esque move. He wants to have that Reagan-esque effect. You know what I mean? And those of you that are not old enough to know this, when President Reagan took office January 20th, 81? I think it was 81. They were holding hostages in Iran. And when he took office, they let them go because they knew that he was going to bring it. And so Trump is warning, kind of Reagan-esque, that there will be all hell to pay if Hamas hostages aren't released before his inauguration. So you've got till January 20th. Big date, folks. Keep that in mind. Lots of things happening by that date. That's a very important date. President-elect Donald Trump warned Monday there will be all hell to pay in the Middle East if Hamas does not release every one of the remaining hostages in Gaza before his inauguration next month. Trump, who has previously demanded Israel find a way to end the war in Gaza before the start of his term, issued his strongest threat yet against the Palestinian terrorists, warning that America would get directly involved in the war if his demands are not met. In other words, you don't let them go, we're sending in G.I. Joe. That's what he's saying. You don't let them go, we're sending in G.I. Joe. Now, let me ask you a question. Why didn't we do this a year ago? Well, because now they got the parking lots. See, they didn't have the parking lots a year ago. Right? And he gets to come in and be the good guy. Be the hero. Well, somebody else did the dirty work. Some of this stuff looks real sketchy, folks. We're going to have to wait and see how it all unfolds, but we'll get a real clear picture in a year or two as we look back and say, oh, so that's why you did that. Oh, so that's why you guys did that. Oh, so that's why. So we're not so easily fooled as when we take that 10,000-foot view and we step back a little bit and we wait. We wait and see how things develop. That's why we don't want to be overwhelmed with so many different things. We want to kind of take our time, pace ourselves, because we're not conspiracy theorists. We are pattern recognition specialists. That's what we are. And one of the things that we continue to see is this propaganda war. And whenever you see a propaganda war, that could lead to a shooting war, right? It could lead to a pew, pew, kind of war, right? But I think this is more becoming an economic war. Chinese vessels under orders from Russia to sabotage Baltic Sea cables. They keep trying to paint this picture. This is from MSN. And they're painting this picture that the Chinese ships, so we know this is coming from the pro-globalist community. And they're saying that they were under orders from Russia to sabotage 2 critical internet cables in the Baltic Sea. Not buying it. Not only am I not buying it, but I think it's really interesting that Holly Bishop here has got the lowdown on it. I bet you Holly hasn't even left her office in 3 months, but she's got the lowdown on who did what. We got to stop believing this propaganda. We got to stop giving it so much credibility, because that is why we get ourselves in these anxiety-filled 2 people talk to me this last couple of weeks. I heard 2 separate people talk about panic attacks. 2 separate people. Okay? Because this overwhelm thing, this anxiety thing is not a joke. Don't let them do that to you. Okay? And so you're seeing a lot of this. And I can tell you that I think this is now morphing into an economic war, which it always is, because all wars are bankers' wars, or, industrial complexes and all that stuff, right? But now it's really becoming really obvious that this was always an economic issue, that the real battle was always about who's going to take the lead in the future, if you will, who's going to run things. And they continue to presume themselves to the front. They are woefully incorrect, but they will be introduced to their back seat by the king himself. In the meantime, Trump continues to threaten 100% tariffs. Look at this, folks. Mr. I'm not with the Fed seems to be defending them. 100% tariffs on Brics countries if they abandon U.S. dollar. Now, what does he mean? Does he mean abandoning the United States or the Federal Reserve System? Because if he's defending that, oops, Houston, we've got ourselves a problem. The president-elect wrote that the coalition of non-Western countries should expect to say goodbye to selling into the wonderful U.S. economy if it backs a currency other than the U.S. dollar. Well, sorry, that's probably going to happen. In a post on Truth Social Saturday, President-elect Donald Trump said he would impose 100% tariff on Brics Geopolitical coalition of non-Western countries if the group moves away from trading using the U.S. dollar. First of all, they are going to laugh at him for saying such a silly thing because America needs imports. We are a net import country more than they need America. America only represents 5% of the world population. And if they keep doing things like this, they're going to be selling to a lot less of the world population because they're going to back themselves right into corners. So this could backfire badly because the BRICS nations are not as weak as they once were. However, I happen to think they're in it together. Yeah, I think they're in it together. I think this is all blubbery and nonsense to keep the status quo kind of going. Plus, it's letting the other side know, hey, we're not so bad. We're not going to destroy it all. I don't believe nothing that we're seeing right now until after the inauguration. We'll see what the real policies of the president are. I'm not even sure we're seeing the real guy right now. He knows his life is in danger. He knows they do not want him to take office. Do you really think he is palling around with all kinds of people right now? I don't buy it. I'm sorry. There's too many body doubles. There's too many things out there that I've seen that I just don't buy that he's, having, dinners and stuff like that. Okay. But I do believe that he did send a message out because this is Trump. This is the Trump that they don't want to talk about. Okay. This is the Trump that they're going to see. And I believe you're going to see a different personality than everybody was, gotten used to. I think you're going to see a different administration than you had the first time. He does not have to win re-election. And things are going to get dicey. And of course, the Middle East is continuing to get hot or changing its dynamics because they got to change the theater of operations. Now they're moving towards Aleppo. Now they're trying to move it because they're just trying to start that war in northern Israel did not quite work out the way they had planned. So now we're going over to Syria and to Damascus, and Iran's military aid will be provided as soon as Tehran receives a request from the Syrian government, because of course Syria has got all kinds of issues now going on. And again, it's like the same guys. If they can't get a fire started someplace, they go somewhere else. This continues to manifest. And we just saw this last week that Syrian rebels breached the city of Aleppo in the biggest advance in years. So all of a sudden, just coincidentally, right now, real good time for a new assault on Syrian regime forces reached a major city, according to rebels and a war monitor. Government warplanes struck back at the rebel territory. So now Syria is going to light up. They are trying so hard to keep us in a war situation of one type or another. And I think it's all cover for the real war that is happening right now. And I think some of you are starting to pick up where the real war is, because the real war has got nothing to do with bullets and so forth. It's got to do with money. And right now they're trying to decide. They don't want to destroy it just yet. Everything is timing with these guys, right? So they want to destroy it when they're ready to destroy it. But let's face it, when you're getting headlines like this, they're warning you ahead of time. And they're saying, look, if we go forward with our plans, that is going to kill jobs. Okay, it's going to kill 400,000 jobs. You think that's what's going to kill 400,000 jobs? I can tell you what's going to really do some damage. Okay, there's some serious economic suffering that's going to happen because the value of the very currency people are walking around with is dropping precipitously. And so whether you know it or not, there's going to be serious suffering. While some people are celebrating because maybe the small percentage are going to be okay, many millions of Americans this holiday season will be a season of deep suffering. Okay. And so many of them, many more than you realize, do not have a warm home, do not have plenty of food to eat, and do not have a family near them or have any kind of support structure. Most people are finding themselves so alone. And even those that they thought were friends, we have friend simulator called Facebook. that gives you the semblance of friendship until you need somebody. And then you find out that it was all a sim, a friendship simulator. Okay. And this is the reality of the world that we're in right now. So do you really think that, Donald Trump is pounding around with Mark Zuckerberg? You think that really happens? I don't think so. I think you got yourselves a body double and a bunch of Photoshop and a bunch of photo ops and a bunch of nonsense going on until they get to January 20th. So like I said, January 20th is the big date. You're going to see a lot of nonsense flubbery in the news during this time period because of the epic nature of this transition. And it is epic. It is huge. Okay. It is one of the most impactful transitions of my lifetime, I believe. And so I'm looking with great interest to see that it in fact occurs. Okay. It in fact occurs because how many know that they don't want to stop this war? They're upset that they're going to have to stop this deal. Peace is in sight. Zelensky's prepared to end the Ukraine war in exchange for NATO status. Right? NATO status? Hasn't Donald Trump made it pretty clear that that ain't going to happen? Even if Russia doesn't immediately give back land, even if Russia doesn't, like immediately concede the land that he stole, maybe we should, come under NATO. That way, if we get attacked again, NATO can fight. Nobody's buying this, okay? If we stop the hot phase of the war, we need to take under the NATO umbrella the territory of Ukraine that we have under our control. We have to take what we can and bring it into NATO. It's basically saying take this. We lost some of it, but we're going to take what we can and bring it into NATO, North Atlantic Treaty Organization. Which, how does that have anything to do with Ukraine? It doesn't. And so this isn't going to happen. This is just more blubbery and more nonsense. And I think you're going to see more desperation as you come closer and closer to January 20th again. And they're starting to figure out that they're not going to get what they wanted and that they're not going to get their all hope is gone. And again, the second half of January, we're going to see some interesting things because of this. But where is it going to be reflected? Where are they going to hurt America? Where's America going to get impacted? Economically, it's going to get pummeled. Okay, very much pummeled. But Russia is taking advantage of this moment to consolidate its gains. So they're taking profits, man. Russia's revenge. Putin orders masses of new arsenic missiles as he plunges Ukraine into darkness in a blitz and directly threatens Zelensky. And so, they are stepping it up, man. They are stepping it up. And again, these are unstoppable weapons. They move too fast. Mach 10? Give me a break. You ain't stopping nothing moving at Mach 10. I'm just saying. You ain't flying nothing at Mach 10 either. These people with their Hollywood movies, I tell you. Tom Cruise, you ain't flying nothing going Mach 10. Don't even lie to me, okay? Going something Mach 10. Who are you kidding me here, huh? Yeah, but they had us believing that Mark Zuckerberg went down there. That was the scuttlebutt that he went down to Mar-a-Lago, right? Okay. So also did Cash Trudeau, as somebody keeps calling him, Cash Trudeau. I think it was Benjamin Fulford. He calls him Cash Trudeau because there's this rumor that he's actually Castro's illegitimate son. I don't know if that's true, but it's an interesting rumor anyway. But what is interesting is that they're all coming to kiss the ring. They're all coming to bow before the incoming president. So this is looking more and more interesting, to say the least, right, guys? We're starting to figure it out. By the way, guys, they continue to give us these things that make us afraid. Now, remember, this is meant to make you afraid of everything. You're not going to want to eat anything. You're going to be eating processed food because all the fresh stuff is poison. They got you thinking there's salmonella and everything. All the cucumbers are bad. All of them bad. I've been eating cucumbers my whole life. Never once have I ever had a problem. But boy, they got you thinking that you're going to get salmonella. You're going to get sick if you go everywhere. And I'm not questioning that there may be, in fact, some potential outbreaks. But boy, isn't it interesting how we're hearing more and more about that lately? They seem to be putting in a lot of energy into making sure that we know these things, which I think is fascinating. Now, one of the things that we've talked about um, is AI. We talked a lot about AI, right, guys? So AI is something that we watched coming into the main conversation. Now, it was not a new concept. Artificial intelligence was brought into the psychology or the psyche of the American people with the movie The Matrix, and as well as other movies like Terminator and Total Recall and a few others that utilized or discussed artificial intelligence. And there's probably others, iRobot and many others. So they were laying this idea out there as if this was the utopic society. In other words, the computer takes care of most things, and if we need anything from it, we can just go ask, and the computer will just answer our questions. And I think actually that's what a lot of people envisioned their computers when they originally came out. They envisioned it as something that would just answer their questions. Just tell me the answer, will you? Well, careful what you wish for. Now, Canada's leading news media companies are launching a legal action against OpenAI. I don't know if you guys knew about this, but they're finally starting to push back because, well, think about it. The OpenAI can just start giving news without having them to, no, people don't have to read the reports. So they're talking about investing hundreds of millions of dollars in reporting Canadians' critical stories and undertaking investigations and original reporting and distributing media in both official languages. And the AI just scours it and just, gives summary points and just says, yeah, here's what happened. So then you don't need to read the report. So these news agencies, I don't know, we're like, how do you sue? I mean, I realize they're suing a company, but you're really suing the AI, so there's some parts of this that I'm not really sure what to tell you. Like, something's wrong with the way they're thinking. So you're going to sue because AI is taking all your stories. Well, you're the ones who reported it and got it out here, and you're the ones who talked us into it, right? Careful what you wish for. You might get it. I think there's a lot of folks that are figuring out that there are some things we all wish for that we probably shouldn't have. AI is one of them. I think we saw, what was it, Tony Stark, right? Everybody saw the Tony Stark, what do you call it? Jarvis. You guys know, come on. And they're talking to the thing, and the thing is telling it, oh, it's this and that, and he's able to get all the information. I think a lot of people thought that was a really good idea. A lot of people thought, oh, hey, an AI that would give me, all my answers, I would be brilliant. No, actually, what they're finding out is that it actually doesn't make you smarter. It actually inhibits your own brain functioning. Bet you are not surprised to find that out. You're probably not surprised. But yeah, that's the truth. It starts to inhibit your natural brain functions, start to become inhibited because of the AI itself. And one of the dangers of this, let's see if I can find that story. One of the dangers of this is that it doesn't allow you to conclude matters for yourself. And so, yeah, I do think that there's some demonic influence in these things that are going on right now. I do believe that we are seeing some of that, but I also believe that we are seeing some manipulation of that. Like, I think that's part of the mystique that made it popular too, is, oh, it might be a demon in there, and the next thing you know, it actually became more popular because people thought they were I'm not even kidding. You may say, what? That would make it more popular? Oh, yeah. Yeah. There's a reason why Mattel started to suddenly make Ouija boards. Yeah. Did you guys know that? Yeah. Mattel's children's Ouija boards. And so, excuse me for a second. I have to reset this screen here. For some reason, decided to go a little goofy right in the middle of the broadcast. And so, we've had that situation where we've watched toys even being introduced, things that, or movies where they're actually using real witches and real demonic and evil things in what is supposed to be entertainment. And in reality, they're introducing people to things like witchcraft, or how about this fascination. I thought it was over. I goes to show you how much I pay attention. I thought it was like, I thought the whole Twilight thing was long over. I thought they were all long over that, like 2009 or something. I don't know why I did. And then I recently saw, advertisements for it, and I'm like, you guys are still doing the Twilight thing? The vampire deal's still out there? Oh my goodness. Yeah. Yeah, they're still doing the vampire gig. They're still convincing people that this is an acceptable, form of entertainment. And I personally think it's reprehensible. I think we should all boycott, very seriously boycott any entertainment, if you will, if you want to call it that, that glorifies that kind of evil or that kind of wickedness. And yet, the number one, the people that support this stuff the most, you know who they are. You already know who I'm going to say. It isn't, it isn't the devil's crowd, right? Well, maybe they are. So here's the story I was looking for. Sorry about that. It was trying to give me a hard time. And, but we win. Haha. Look at this. Smaller brains, fewer friends. Smaller brains, fewer friends. I'm telling you right now, this is intentional. An evolutionary biologist ask how AI will change humans' future and what humans will be generations from now in a world transformed by artificial intelligence. Plenty of thinkers have applied themselves to questions like this, considering how AI will alter lives, often for better, sometimes for worse. And they've conjured up all these scenarios. But when you read this, you'll find out that what he's going to describe to you is a very, very dark future, because, of course, they're doing all the thinking. They're doing all the thinking. Okay. Yeah, AI didn't write that at that article. That's right. Probably not. That's a good point. AI is like, let's cover that up. I got to wonder how much information we're being hidden from by AIs, and how much information is being hidden from us that is being broadcast in other parts of the world, but that we don't get because they're controlling the information that's available for the American people. We saw this really heavily when we lived outside the U.S. When we lived in Israel, we saw a lot of the duplicity in the news media, and that is something that I think, you always assume that people know this, but it's amazing how many people are not aware that it is being manipulated. By the way, did you know this is part of the judgments that would come in the last days? In the U.S., young and middle-aged women are being diagnosed with lung cancer at higher rates than men. I don't know if you knew that, but there is something very sinister going on here, and lung cancer overall is decreasing, but it is really increasing in young women. And I do believe that there is a major attack going on. And of course, I would encourage people to look into anti-parasite treatments, discuss treatments outside the United States, because this is part of the judgments. These are known as the emeralds of Egypt. Cancer and cancer sores are in the scripture called emeralds, and there are cancerous, blotches and what have you, and it is an uncleanness. And so this is why there was a remedy from uncleanness. And so this is something that it can be remedied, but it does need to be done in accordance to Yahuwah's word. And now we're seeing the upheaval in the United States that we did expect to see coming. And they are starting to brace for this, right, guys? So they're going to brace for massive fear, massive deportation, rather upheaval of deportation. But I'm keying on this word right here, because this is consistently what they're trying to do. They're always wanting to put people in fear. Now, not only should the immigrants be in fear, but the classroom should be in fear. The schools should be in fear. Everybody should be in fear. So policies that were implemented now just guaranteed that we're going to have a bunch of fear running through our schools, because this now has to be dealt with. And, I forgot to share this. I thought this was interesting. Fox Business. They're all doing this mea culpa. They're all trying to kind of kiss the ring, but this was interesting. I want to be part of the national renewal. Okay, I'm not buying any of that. I am so not buying it. Did you hear about Walmart? Walmart suddenly dropped. Oh, I got to show you that story. Walmart. Oh my goodness. All of a sudden is like, hey, you guys remember back in the 80s, Walmart was like Patriot Central. Okay. It was. For those that don't remember, man, Walmart was Patriot Central. And then it changed and went a different way. Let's just put it that way, right? Here it is. Here's the story. And so this was kind of interesting to read this today. I was like, oh, kind of remembering where you came from, maybe. World's largest retailer, Walmart, nixes DEI and LBGT themed products after pressure from conservative activists. This will send shockwaves. Walmart has joined a growing list of major corporations that roll back its diversity, equity, and inclusion policies. Okay, so they found out that was a non-starter. That was a loser, and they started to get a lot of feedback on that. Right now, remember that Walmart's who they're in bed with. Okay, so we're not fooled by this. This is a mea culpa. Let's get back in the good graces of the red hat wearing people, I guess, or something. Meanwhile, let's throw some shade on Costco. While we're at it, let's throw some shade on Costco. So we're going to improve our image and tarnish theirs. Costco issues warning as 10,000 products are recalled over salmonella fears. Here we go again. Oh, they only sell these products to Costco, guys. They don't sell them to Walmart or Sam's Club. Only Costco. 10,000 of them. And they only get sold at Costco, not Walmart, not any other store. That's interesting. So Costco private labeled exclusively 10,000 products, or maybe there are some other stores that they're just not mentioning. So why mention Costco? Costco should sue them for that. Because they're making it look like they're the only ones that would have had that. And I'm sure this distribution company, where everything from eggs to whatever else is in this notice, I'm certain that there were other stores that were also recipients of this, but they're making it sound like it was only Costco. While at the same time, you got stories coming out slowly that Walmart, mea culpa. What's underneath them Walmarts? They want you inside those Walmarts, man. I don't know. I don't trust them Walmarts. Sorry. You guys go hang out with the Walmarts. I started putting Walmart in the same category as McDonald's a while ago. Did you guys hear about the super volcano that is slowly starting to come awake? Well, this one's a big one. This is a super volcano that has the potential to plunge the world into chaos and is showing signs of increased activity. And here's all about it. It's in the Gregorian fields. A super volcano located west of Naples, Italy, has been under scientific scrutiny due to its increased volcanic gas emissions and minor seismic activity, with the potential to disrupt global climate and life on Earth. This super volcano is one of the most closely monitored geological sites. And situated in southern Italy, the Gregorian fields are part of a massive supervolcano complex known for its ability to emit large amounts of volcanic carbon dioxide. And again, this is the same area that gave us, Pompeii, and in the devastation that we still see today as a result of that volcanic explosion. So it is reasonable to be worried about the potential that judgment may come in the form of a volcano. That's a reasonable thing to be concerned about, especially while they're buying Bibles. So you're seeing what's happening here, folks. They're buying Bibles and worried about volcanoes. Some crazy times we're living in. Hey, did you guys hear about the I know I'm all over the place tonight, but hang in there with me. There were all of these UFOs. I had to find this story. This was fascinating. Here it is. Mysterious lights over the Capitol. Fascinating stuff going on, folks. It was just all over the place this week. Main thing was the economic devastation. And mysterious lights over the Capitol Hill sparks fears of UFOs in Washington, D.C. The other day, ominous quartet of gleaming lights over the United States Capitol buildings have left some afraid the alien invasion has finally arrived. The alien invasion. And by the way, you want to make sure that they're all afraid. Do you not notice how many times they drop this word? Okay. You know how Yahuwah tells you 365 times not to be afraid? Man, they say it 365 times a day. Be afraid. Oh, some fears. Oh, fears of this. And oh, there's fears of that. And so, they're all now the next thing is, the alien invasion and mysterious lights over the capital, of course, portend Nephilim contact. Bum, bum, bum. There's nothing new under the sun. These folks have been playing the same game, running on people for millennia. And we're coming in for a landing. The king is coming. That much we do know. The king is coming. And so we do know that there are a lot of things that are happening right now. There's heat waves that are popping up worldwide without explanation. That was fascinating. Yeah, Antarctica. Yeah, there's probably going to be some stuff that comes out about that. But when a heat wave strikes, many people probably think it's just another sign of global warming. However, a certain new study has discovered a collection of global hotspots where temperatures are becoming so extreme without warning that climate change can't explain it. So it's a hotspot that doesn't work for their model. What's going on? So they can't quite figure this out, but their Earth is responding, and there's definitely scorching going on. And this portends of Revelation, where it speaks of the sun scorching men in the last days. And so I don't know. I really don't know. That's a good question. Do they think it's, who knows? Who really knows? Speaking of the rapture, since somebody brought that up, one of the biggest proponents of the rapture and rapture theory, the pre-tribulation rapture theory, and the writer of the book, The Late Great Planet Earth, Hal Lindsey, has died. And while on the one hand, we probably, I would certainly have disagreed with him on his many, many, many positions in his books, I did find that he was instrumental in making the topic of prophecy interesting. And we owe a debt of gratitude, at least to the extent, and you can certainly go back and watch this video and read up on that, and to the extent that he opened the eyes of people to begin to look at current events in light of Bible prophecy, I do believe was beneficial. He began my journey in what is known as eschatology. And again, while it didn't take long before I began to disagree with some of his conclusions, I did appreciate that his ministry was on the cutting edge, if you will, of awakening people to the reality that we were living in prophetic days. And so we put aside our weights and sins, and we put aside our disagreements, and we pray shalom for his family and for all of those as he has finished his course. And so I think we need to be gracious, especially in people's ignorance. There's many things that this previous generation never even got exposed to. And so just be aware of that and be grateful that you have been chosen to know some of the things that you are chosen to know. There's a lot going on in the Middle East now. They're talking about a ceasefire deal. And as a result of that ceasefire deal, this was interesting. The Sanhedrin, they announced a ruling. Yes, they have their own Sanhedrin. Okay, Yahusha has his 70 and they pick their own. All Jews. Okay, so if you're a Jew, not a Yahudim, just a Jew. Okay, all Jews worldwide must come home to Israel immediately. Right now. And of course, they're trying to speak into their own future, certain messianic prophecies, having rejected Mashiach Yahusha, so having rejected the Lamb of Yahuwah Sebaot, Yahuwah Eloah Hayam, and rejected his offer. They now go to make another way, and he was very clear that any who seeks to climb up any other way is but a thief and a robber. There is no other way to the Father but by me, he said. You must come by the way of the Son, the way, the truth, and the life. No man comes to the Father but by me. But they're going to try. So we get to watch and you get to see. And that's what that's part of this whole experience that we're going to go through here. We're going to go through it together. And those that thought that we're going to be whisking away, you're still here. You're still here, and you're having to deal with reality on the ground. And I know that that's not easy for a lot of folks. So my heart goes out to those that might have bought into some of these things that these folks were talking about, and things that were being promoted out there. A lot of things were, being pumped out there that are not real. By the way, again, UFO footage continues to come in. This was at an airport. Oh, I meant to tell you guys. The other day, we saw a blue light, literally like an orb of some sort, go right over our mountain. It was really quite spectacular. And I'm like, what is that? And I didn't have my camera in my hand, so I couldn't take a picture. It was really fast. And here, a UFO allegedly shot at Manchester Airport caused hysteria, frenzy, and Reddit with alien fans. And so I saw that they had a little bit of footage on that. And so you can certainly go back and look at that. I do think there are some very odd things going on in our skies. And so those of you that may be catching that, share those videos, or if you run across a video that shares some of that, be generous with those. Let us have a gander at some of that. That's really interesting stuff going on right now. And I do believe it is part of what we were told would happen, signs in the heavens. So we're starting to see it. And lastly, I thought this was a really good story. I'm really actually encouraged by this. Because Australia seems to know something that all of us parents and homeschool parents know, that your children under 16 years old ain't got no business. And I mean, got no business on no social media, no digital, nothing. No. Okay. Australian Parliament bans social media for under 16s with world's first law. Now, I don't think we should have a law for it because it ain't none of their business, but I do think it's an interesting point. And I do think that parents should be taking a note of this and saying, wow, you mean they had to pass a law because parents didn't know that they shouldn't be putting their children on these very, very heavy psychologically manipulative systems that even the designers of admit were manipulative. So I think it's very good that there's attention being drawn. I don't know how this law would be enforced. It may all be symbolic, but I do think it's good that the world is awakening to the dangers of social media, the dangers of simulated friendships and simulated relationships that once you test them in the real world, do not hold against the test of time. And that's a very sad but real thing, folks, because let's face it, I don't know about you, but I don't want any fake friends. If you've ever had any of those, you want to give them back as soon as you figure out they're fake. You're like, where'd they get you? I want to bring you back. Who? No wonder those other people. No wonder you have no friends on your timeline. No wonder you're 40 years old and you got a brand new profile, right? Because there's a lot of people out there that are impostoring, that are remaking themselves for the 20th time, and that usually means they've left some people in the dust, right? And so just to be aware of these things that are going on right now, just aware of the psychology, the psychosis, if you will, more the psychosis that is happening with the overuse of these mediums. Social media is probably responsible for the activation of the narcissism plague that, just took over, guys. Who among us have not been affected by narcissistic abuse? And that came, unfortunately, as a result of social media. At least I believe social media triggered it. I won't say it necessarily caused it or forced it, but more caused it than forced it. It's almost like it activated a part that shouldn't be, that increases vanity, increases self-centeredness, and attentioning yourself, centeredness into yourself. And that That wasn't the direction we needed to go. When social media arrived, we were already a self-centered people. So we didn't need something to make us more self-centered. We needed something that took us away from that and moved us into more of a selfless, giving, loving, as Messiah said, loving your neighbor as you love yourself. And so many of you are looking out in your world and saying, I'm not really fond of what I'm seeing. But we have to be the change that we want to see in the world. And that includes every area. Right now, what you're watching economically, and we're continuing to watch it, is the devastation of the US dollar. And this is the Federal Reserve note, to be clear. It's the USD. So all of them are now tokens, all of them. And the token designation for the Federal Reserve note is USD. And that is the worst coin out there. It is dropping like a rock. Nobody wants it. And so I believe all the knives are out and they're doing it nice and quiet. And people are partying while they're taking cut after cut after cut. The downside of this, my friends and my brothers and sisters out there, and the reason why we're alerting you to this is that unfortunately you're going to be a casualty in this big war between these two mega powers and economies and economic systems. You're going to be in the crosshairs. That's why Yahuwah makes ways of escape. It's so that you can sit off to the side while they kill each other. Amen. And so that is what he's doing right now here at New Kingdom. That is what he's doing, I believe, in various places. That's what he's doing in the scriptures with bringing the Restine. That's what he's doing with the Truther's Journal and other works out there where people are suddenly getting impacted by the truth. And that's what New Kingdom is about, is standing up as being an example that when you look at it, you realize, well, wait a minute, if that's the right way to do it, then what are these other folks doing? And that's what we're committed to doing, continuing to seek first his kingdom and his Zedakah, to continue to establish a very, very high standard for everything that we do. And that, my friends, is important as you represent the king. After all, he is watching. Speaking of watching, that's it for tonight. Thank you so much for joining us. I pray this broadcast has been a barakah to you. And our encouragement is that you will connect with your brothers, one and all, that you will disconnect from the fake or simulated relationships and get moving into the real ones where you can really interact. Be careful with those that say they want relationships and are not forever people. Anybody that is here today, gone tomorrow will abuse you. Those that are here forever will think carefully before they do certain things, right? And so that's what we're looking for. When I was young, as I grew older, I started to take things out of my diet. As I got wiser, I started to take people out of my life. So recognize that there are some that are not going where you're going. Be wise, be sober out there. Thank you so much for joining us. May Elohim Baruch each and every one of you. Good night.